All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Well, today I'm sitting in Richmond, Virginia, but we're gonna head up to Richmond County, which is up in New York, to talk with Nick DeFendis, owner, founder, head man of the Richmond County Baseball Club. Nick, how you doing, man? Welcome to the call.
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me on.
So before we hit record, we were talking. You and I have met in person at least once, and we were reminiscing because we met in Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun, which is where they host the World Baseball Coaches Convention. And I just want to give a shout out to that. I love that clinic. You know, I've told a bunch of coaches, if you're gonna go to one, go to that one. You can take your wife or girlfriend. There's so much to do. They won't be bored. Your wife won't hate you for going away for the weekend, because you can go do your baseball thing, pal around with your baseball buddies, and then you can take your wife to a nice dinner, see a show, go shopping. I mean, if you want to play cards, obviously all the casino stuff is there too. So kind of a little walk down memory lane. Yeah, hit that one.
I remember that. And the Mohegan Sun is a beautiful hotel, and you're indoors, and you feel like you're kind of outdoors because the place is so huge. It's about I'd say between 5 and 6 hour drive from Staten Island, New York. We've gone up there many times. We haven't been up there in the last 2 years prior to because of the pandemic, but we do plan on attending those events. There's a lot of good information, a lot of good coaches that go up there and get instruction, and there's places that you can take your wife and have dinner, and in the nighttime when all the baseball activities are done, you can go and play some roulette and gamble and lose all your money.
Not that that's something you would necessarily do, but you can if you want to. It's there for you.
You also win some money too.
Yeah. Well, let me, before we get too far into this, I always try and remind myself, if you want to connect with Coach DeFendis, find him over on Twitter at Nick DeFendis, and I'll spell that's Nick Nick. DeFendis is DeFendis. And so at Nick DeFendis, give him a follow and connect with him. He's got a lot of good things going up there, outside of New York City, and we're gonna find out more. But before we catch up too much on the current situation of Richmond County Baseball Club, Coach, why don't you just take the mic and give us your background bio, how you got into this coaching gig, and then give us the that foundation story of RCBC.
Cool. Well, back in 2004, I established the program with 12 players. We called ourselves the Dirty Dozen. And 18 years later, we're getting ready to start our 18th year. So we established the program in 2004. We average between 15 and 18 teams, and the age groups are between 8 and 17. We're based in Staten Island, New York, with a community of about 500,000 people, but we also do our recruiting through New York, as far as up into Connecticut, out into Long Island, and different parts of New Jersey. We have a 53-acre complex with 5 baseball fields, which are all natural grass, all have grass infields. It's a beautiful facility. We're a member of the Marucci Franchise Club, which we became members of their prestigious club about I'd say 6 years ago, and we attend their Marucci World Series down at LSU in Baton Rouge, Louisiana each year, which is a great event. Also, we're the program pretty much focuses on instruction, development, and advancement, as well as being very competitive. We've won over 225 championships, appeared in over 350 championship games. Let me correct that. We've won 225 tournament championships, appeared in 350 championship games since 2014. We've had teams regionally and nationally ranked by perfect game in the last 5 years. over 200 players have gone on to play college baseball that have grown up in our program and have started at the age of 9 and graduated out of our program when we graduated out of high school. 14 players have gone on to play Major League Baseball. Well, actually, have been drafted by Major League Baseball. We've recently had one player that was with the Rangers and worked his way up to the Yankees and was kind of being groomed a little bit to play center field on their Major League team, but the pandemic hit. They squashed the season. He fell to the wayside. Outfielder, but a really, really great player, Zach Granite. We host showcases for the past 9 years. We do mini camps with schools such as Rutgers, Seton Hall, St. John's, Wagner College, and different other local Division I schools, Division II schools in the area. We have a couple of technology platforms and college relationships to get our players out there to get exposed to different schools. I personally, take care of a lot of the recruiting, along with Mike Lopapara, who's one of our dedicated college advisors. I serve as the Perfect Game Northeast head coach for Team Northeast. That we take a team down to Jupiter each year. And in the last 3 years, we've gotten out of our pool with kids throughout the Northeast that we put together for this particular event, and it's been very, very successful. It's been a lot of fun for me personally to be able to work with these here kids who are such great players. I know you had Mr. Richmond, who's a really good friend, on one of your calls, and we've banged heads on and off the field, but I'm sure we're on the field. But after the games are over, we are really, really good friends, and we host tournaments in partnership with Perfect Game, including Northeast Mid-Atlantic Super Qualifiers, in which we run every weekend at our complex. I've recently taken on a very small role with Pittsburgh Pirates as a bird dog scout, just to keep my eye on some local talent, to try and help some of the kids that deserve to play at the professional level get out there. And last but not least, we're continually providing support for our community via fundraisers and sponsorships. So that's my spiel.
You know what? I actually really appreciate that you came to the show with some bullet points in hand. I like that. Maybe some other guys might replicate that in the future. And there was a few things I wanted to say. That last point hit home. When I was looking over some of the links for you, I came across your y'all's YouTube channel, and I saw where you guys were raising money about a year ago, raising money and turning that money into meals for frontline workers during the pandemic. And that was literally the only video I clicked on, and I appreciate that, and I think that's pretty awesome that you're kind of community minded and taking care of the people around you. So that was very cool.
That's something that we really like to. Before I move on, we talk about being organized and having bullet points. I've listed a lot of the things that we do as a program, and trust me when I tell you, none of this can get done without the help of my partner, George Quinn, who is my right arm, and also Jim Russo, who I think you spoke to maybe yesterday, in helping me stay organized and giving me the ability to sound as smart as I may sound on conversation.
Well, you know what? I think that's one of the secrets between Coach Quinn and Coach Russo being at your sides is having an organized staff that is strong at communicating. I've talked about just how communication is the secret weapon. If you look at the top organizations across the country, it's usually not a coincidence that the leaders are strong communicators. You don't get to be the top of the mountain without that piece. So yeah,
nobody can do it alone. I don't care how strong-minded you are or what type of ego you have. If you're not surrounded by good people, and not only George and Jimmy, I'm talking about our coaches that we have in our program. You know, we take on these here guys. We keep our program at 18, max at 18, 19 teams, and we can have 40 teams if we want. But once you go over a certain number of teams, you start to get really watered down, and your brand gets watered down as well. And one of the things that we're very conscious of is trying to have, you know, a well-rounded program where we can do our showcases, we can do our tournaments, we can have a very competitive, you know, baseball program. We are not the, I would say, the Orlando Scorpions, or we are not, you know, one of these here top-ranked school programs in the country, because we don't have the desire to really go out and poach players from different teams. And I don't mean to insinuate that these guys do that, but they have a larger area to work with, and we don't. We have a smaller community, so we like to home grow our players, similar to like what I heard Bob Reichman say. He likes to, you know, home grow his players and get them to the next level. And I listened to his interview, and you know, he gives a lot of credit to the high school coaches, and I do the same. I think it's important that they're recognized. I think it's important that high school coaches get the recognition that they deserve, simply because their players are with them as much as they are with us, and through a good joint venture and working, and something that you said earlier, communicating. I think if we could communicate better with the high school coaches, I think the only people that really benefit from it are the players. When the players benefit from it and move on, it makes us all look good as well.
I'm kind of curious, and this question may or may not lead to another question, but what percentage of your guys, I mean, if you had to kind of pick a number, what percentage of the rosters or the organization as a whole are from Staten Island versus off of Staten Island?
The younger age groups, I would say from 8 to about 13 years old, are primarily all Staten Island kids.
Yeah.
We'll get a couple of kids from New Jersey or Brooklyn that maybe can't find some place where they are and think, you know, heard good things about us and want to play. Once you start getting to the high school age kids, again, we rely heavily on our high school base. So I would say 80% of the kids that are in our program would be from Staten Island.
That's incredible. So let me finish this thought here. Staten Island, you mentioned earlier, has a population of 500,000 people. Is that roughly what you said before?
Correct.
So you're talking about 500,000 people. So to compare that, because you referenced Reich, so I just Googled the Orlando metro area. Okay, so not the city of Orlando, but the metro area has 2 million, almost 2,700,000 people in the metro area. So we're talking about over about 5.5 times the population versus your island. Now, are there people within an hour's drive of you? Sure, but it sounds like the vast majority, over 80% of your organization, is coming from your island. I think that's a pretty big deal. And we have competition out here as well, which makes it not as easy as it was years back. But we try and continue to put a good product out there. Try to treat our players real well. We profess developing, and we hope that we hope that people understand that that's really, the only way that that a player can get from point A to point B. And point A and point to point B is to be able to go play high school and college baseball. I want to, before we move on, I want to give a shout out to Kyle from Marucci. He's one of the hardest working dudes. Kyle Acord from Marucci, and because you guys mentioned you're part of the Marucci Founders Club, and man, what a great dude that guy is. And then when as I say that, we've had a ton of the founders clubs and the Marucci partners on the podcast in the past, but there's one, I think he's kind of in your neck of the woods, is Robert Maida from Niners baseball. Do you run across Robert at all up there?
Yeah, we know Rob. I know Rob for many years. Good dude.
He's a good dude. I need to get him on the podcast again. His podcast was probably one of the most listened to, and by far and away the most quotable. That guy's got some quotes, man. He's a wild man. Really fun guy.
He's a character.
Character is a great way of describing it. Well, anyway, I didn't want to zip past without mentioning Kyle from Marucci. I know they're partnered up with a lot of good organizations from across the entire country.
Make one comment on Kyle. He's a quality guy. Marucci's a quality organization. We've hosted a Marucci tournament here for them this year, which was pretty successful. Great people to work with, and just a great dude. Kyle's good people.
Let's talk a second about this 53-acre complex. I go to your website, and the very first thing I see is an overhead photo of in the website. By the way, if you go to RCB Club for Richmond County Baseball Club, RCB Club is going to take you to the website, and the first thing I see. What's that?
RCBclub.com.
RCBclub.com. You're going to see an overhead aerial photo that includes 4 big fields, all natural, 60-90 fields, and a small field for the youth players. Unbelievable that there's 53 acres of undeveloped land that you can sit 5 baseball fields on in New York within minutes of New York City. How did this come to be? How did you come to be the caretaker of this property? Tell us that, and then we'll get into just the advantages of having a place to play every day as well as host tournaments. But talk about how you came to be in possession of this space.
Well, like I said, 18 years ago when we first started the program, we had a thought of building a baseball program and being more community-minded. We needed a home. So this was a facility at the time that was kind of beaten up. They were running a lot of softball, men's softball leagues out of there. It was never being upkept. And I kind of like got involved with it, expanded all the fields into baseball fields. And little by little, over the course of maybe 10 years, we just kept developing and growing, and where we are today, with it. It's not an easy, was not an easy undertaking, but again, through a lot of community work, working in partnership with a lot of different community-minded people, working together closely with our local politicians and stuff, we were able to get it done. They've seen the same vision that I've seen on how we can help kids, keep them off the street, keep them in a safe environment, and develop them, and try and point them in the right direction. It's not only about baseball. When they're finished playing baseball, they still have 40 more years or plus of their lives that they have to worry about. So we try and make them good people. So that's what we use. We concentrate on utilizing our facility for a lot of different events that will help the community and help the kids that are in our program.
Which leads perfectly to the sort of the next topic is you mentioned you work with and partner with Perfect Game on events. You've hosted some Marucci events up there. I'm assuming you're running some events that you host outside of Perfect Game or Marucci as well. But when I think about these Northeast events, there's another complex in New Jersey that's That's a big one that we've had some of the guys from that company over on the podcast as well. Diamond Nation, we're talking about, right. Compare and contrast versus Staten Island. I gotta think, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Is Staten Island just an unbelievable bear to get to geographically versus where Diamond Nation is?
No. If you think about it for a second and you look at the map, if you look at Montauk Point, okay, you come down to 495 all the way down through Long Island. You got a facility out there called Baseball Heaven.
Yep.
Right. Then you come down and you come down the 495. You come over to Verrazano up to BQE and over the Verrazano Bridge, and you come up the Staten Island Expressway, and boom, you got us. And then you keep going over the Goethals Bridge or the Outer Bridge Crossing, and you go further south, and you got Diamond Nation. So you have three really quality facilities right in a row that can host, tournaments that obviously benefit and help kids, move on with their baseball career. So I would say out of the three locations, when you think about it, we have the most ideal because we're in the middle of that hub. Like I said, with 15, 20 minutes, I would say 15 minutes from Newark Airport, about 25 minutes to a half an hour from Manhattan. So we got a lot of different things that we have to offer in the way of not only playing baseball, but when you do come here and play baseball here on Staten Island, a lot of our local establishments, the restaurants, the gas stations, the delis, the mall, the Staten Island Mall, which is 15 minutes away from us. Staten Island Yankees used to be here, but now they're bringing in another professional organization. You go over the bridge into Brooklyn, you're at the Brooklyn Cyclones. You're 45 minutes to an hour from Yankee Stadium, and the same thing for going out to City Park out in Queens. Mm. So we have a lot of things to offer. We're right in the middle of that, but that doesn't take away from what these other guys do as well. They run some quality events, and they have beautiful facilities as well.
So I have to admit, I've been to a lot of baseball facilities, a lot of baseball events, a lot of tournaments, showcases. I've actually never been to Diamond Nation, so I can't visualize it on a map. I have been to Baseball Heaven, and I can tell you, it's not easy to get to. It's an absolute bear if you're going to get there by car. Right. And I was there once, and I promised myself if I ever needed to return, I would fly because apparently there's a small airport out on Long Island that happens to be almost across the street. So if I ever have to go back to Baseball Heaven, I'm going by air. But man, I think looking at the map, looking at where Staten Island is, and looking at your proximity to the big cities, to quality air transportation to get into Newark, it seems like you probably don't have much struggle filling events up there, as many as you want. With one caveat, when I look at these fields, they're natural, not turf. So if it rains, you might have a little bit of an issue. But as far as getting teams within a few hundred miles of your location, I think you could probably find some teams to fill up tournaments pretty quick.
I can tell you that the Perfect Game brand is amazing. They do such a great job all over the country, and they just continue to grow. And we've been involved. I've been involved with the Northeast director, who's one of the main, if not the main guy here in the Mid-Atlantic area. His name is Bob Barth, and he does a phenomenal job. We work closely with him on all our events, and Perfect Game. They put a tournament out there, and it's hard to compete with that because they do such a great job with getting the information from every single one of the players throughout the tournament through their Diamond Cast platform. They're able to get their statistics out and their rankings out, and it makes it a lot easier for high school coaches and college coaches to track down players. So when you talk about being able to do an event, they're a good reason why these events get filled.
Yeah, for sure. Last question about this facility, and then we'll change directions here. Again, I'm just looking at this aerial photo. It doesn't seem like there's necessarily an indoor facility, but it does look like there's maybe a covered hitting area. Is that accurate?
Yes, and we are working on getting an indoor facility on the property.
Nice. Well, that was going to be my follow-up. Is there a spot where you take your guys when there's, either during the winter time or if there's inclement weather? Is there a facility, an indoor facility there on Staten Island that you guys can use?
Yeah, my son John, who played pro ball was affiliated with 3 different major league teams, has his own indoor facility called Johnny D's 5-tool baseball. So we utilize his facility.
Gotcha.
We also utilize several other facilities because you can't just use one. We use it as a main, but we go out to New Jersey in the wintertime and rent out a really large place so that we can do major training with our kids and get them prepared for their high school season and us obviously for the spring as well. Is
there going to be a second Johnny D's facility on the site where the fields are pretty soon?
I don't think it would be a Johnny D's, but I think that it would be a facility in which he would be involved in.
There you go. Cool. All right, changing. Cool. Let's change directions a little bit. You've referenced that you've been at this since the days of your Dirty Dozen with roster with 12 players back in the day. By the way, was that a youth team?
Yes, it was. It was actually a 13-year-old team.
Got it.
That we started.
Was that with your son? Was your son on that roster?
No, at the time, I was looking for something to do because he had just went and played pro ball. So, he was my sidekick, and I lost my sidekick. I was getting withdrawals, so I said, you know what? The best thing for me to do is start a baseball program.
I love it. That's pretty cool. All right, so 18 years of doing the Richmond County Baseball Club, but you've obviously been at this baseball thing for much longer than that with your sidekick, as you call him. What when you compare and contrast the kids of 18, 20, 25 years ago versus the kids of today, like what are some of the things that you're seeing as maybe similarities or differences?
That is such a great question, and I'm glad you're asking me that question because that's one of the things that really, to me, is starting to show in what I will perceive to say, and I think a lot of people who have summer programs will agree on, is that we have too many players today that jump around, and they don't particularly have the loyalty that I think is required. Not only with my program, we don't run into it a lot because we concentrate on really taking care of our players. But when we travel and I talk to coaches and throughout the Marucci Founders Club, we talk about the difference in players years ago as opposed to players today. And years ago, there weren't as many travel programs. Today, there's tons of travel programs. So if a kid is not happy for whatever reason, it's very easy for him to move. And the thing that I want to stress to any player that's listening to this podcast is that the colleges are now experiencing the same thing with going into the transfer portal. And when a college coach sees, little Louie playing for Richmond County baseball, and then all of a sudden next week he's playing for the Niners, and then the following week he's playing down at Diamond Nation, and then the following week he's out at baseball heaven. That throws up major, major red flags for those college guys, because now they're afraid that if you're going to do that to your travel guy or even to your high school guy for whatever reason, well, what's to say you're not going to do that to us when you get to the college level? If you're not happy your first year, then you put your name into the transfer portal. So I think a big part of baseball today really needs to, we need to stress to these young kids that it's great to go to a showcase. It's great to have rankings with Perfect Game and these other organizations that are out there that are giving these rankings out. But the most important thing is to develop. You need to get your ground balls. You need to get your fly balls. You need to get your instruction. You need to play with a team that's your teams that you've been involved with. Jumping around for personal gain, may benefit you at sometimes, but on an overall basis, it really doesn't. It really doesn't, work well for baseball and for the player, because there's an old expression that we all use, and it's been used for many, many years. The grass is not greener on the other side. In some cases, I would say it is, but in most cases, it's not. And last but not least, what I'd like to say is that the recruiting process is not as easy as people think it is. And if you have somebody advocating for you, a program, an organization that has great structure and great reputation, and they see you jumping around from all over the place, college coaches really appreciate guys that work with their players like the college guys work with their players. So I think that's one of the things that needs to be fixed. That really irks me in the way of the direction that baseball is going. Loyalty is a two-way street, and it's character. It's all about character, and it's all about believing in where you are. So I think that's something that I think baseball needs to fix, at least at this level.
Love it. When eventually, if you think the grass is greener on the other side, and you're jumping, eventually you got to figure out maybe you just stay where you are and water your own darn grass, and you'll be all right.
Well, just look in the mirror. Look in the mirror and
bingo.
Why am I jumping all over the place?
Bingo.
There has to be a reason why Johnny is so successful there, and I'm not. He's buying into the system. He's believing in the program and where they came from and the things that they've done in the past. Why is it different for him? Why is he moving on, and why am I bouncing all over the place?
For sure. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. This would probably be a good spot to transition over to some of my some of my standards, if you will. The first one being, oftentimes I call it like it's a little bit of a softball, but man, I've been getting some really quality answers. And this question used to be straight up, what book should every coach read? But then I realized, listen, I'm in a point in my life where I don't read that much because I have a 5-year-old. And if I'm reading, it's usually a little kid's book. So we all learn things differently. So I adjusted the question. It's what book, movie, website, or any other resource do you think that or recommend that coaches either read or learn from?
Oh, I'm a big traditional guy. And so I like Remember the Titans. I like the balance between the good guy and the tough guy. I like the way the movie portrayed brotherhood, culture, and winning, camaraderie. Those are things that are missing in today's game. And when these here kids that are playing baseball today graduate out of college and go on and get a job, they have to do some soul searching. And when they look back and they remember the trips that they went on with a team that they were involved in, for the years that they played in the program, there's great memories as opposed to, just going to a tournament, sitting in a hotel room after 2 hours of playing baseball, and then going back out the next day because you're either with your parent and you're not building that camaraderie on the road. We traveled last year for 18 days. We went from New York to Atlanta, and from Atlanta to Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Wow.
And we're on the road for 18 days. And when we came back from that trip, I can tell you from the middle of my heart that every one of the kids in our program had a great time. We had great time on the field, great time off the field. We won. We got out of our bracket in both of those tournaments and went on, further into the tournament than most other teams. And that all has to do with, the camaraderie and building that toughness. So Remember the Titans is a great movie. I'm sure a lot of people have already seen it, but you can never watch it enough.
True. Remember the Titans, true story, based on T.C. Williams High School here in Alexandria, Virginia. If you've been under a rock and you haven't seen it, you don't know the story, go watch that one tonight. It's a tremendous story about a football program. Again, T.C. Williams out of Alexandria, Virginia, in the early 70s. I think that was 1970 or 71 or 72. Tremendous story about just what a team is really all about. Good stuff. Do you have a second one? Do you want to throw in there?
I never really give it a thought in regards to there's a basketball movie and that's just not it's not getting my attention right now. I can't recollect it, but I always remembered that movie as well, and I'm sure people that are listening in on the podcast know the sound and know the movie that I'm talking about, but it's just not coming to mind. But it also has to do with camaraderie. It also has to do with team. And like I said before, I think that's what baseball is missing. I think baseball is going in the wrong direction at the youth level, where kids are getting away from the team concept, because that's what they're going to have to do when they get older. They're going to have to work in an office. They're going to have to get along with people. They're going to have to get there early. They're going to have to leave late. They're going to have to impress their boss because they want to go home. When little Johnny wants his, $200 sneakers, they have to be able to provide for their families. And I think baseball and sports in general really teach that. And when you're on a team and you're working together with people, I think it makes it a lot easier for life after baseball. Well,
it's just such a great way to teach those lessons, or for the player to learn those lessons in a relatively low risk environment, right? You're gonna learn so much from striking out 3 times in a game, but your life isn't on the line. It's less risky than maybe, like you said, showing up late to work, where that's a lot riskier, because you show up to work 3 days late in a row and you're going to be asked to leave. Getting fired for truancy or for just bad performance is way riskier than missing a ground ball. But those lessons that you're learning from those team sports are so valuable. We've got our first, by the way, we got our first basketball game with our 5-year-old this week, so we'll have to report back on how that goes.
Good.
So let's jump ahead a little bit. You started you started this club 18 years ago. I'm kind of curious. You look at some guys. Today, what's one piece of advice that you'd give someone that's just starting a travel organization?
To be honest with you, not to be in it for the buck. People will see right through you. They will recognize the kind of person that you are. There's a lot of young guys that are getting into the business today that are trying to make a living out of it, and they do and say and act in ways that are not proper. Calling young players, texting young players, trying to recruit them away from programs that they're in happy with. I think being honest is with the people that you're working with is an important thing. Not to water down your program. Like I said, money is a root to all evil. But if you're looking to have multiple teams, there's only so much that you have control over. So in my mind, less is more sometimes. And make sure that you're developing your players. Try to work hard to get them to the levels that they're capable of getting to, and don't lie to them in the way when it comes down to getting them recruited. You have to be honest with the level of baseball that they're capable of playing at, and being honest with them allows them to get recruited, as opposed to them, looking for higher levels and going unrecruited. And that's a double-edged sword right there, because that's one of the bigger reasons, or some of the reasons why you have kids jumping, from one place to another, because someone like myself will evaluate a player and have conversation with him and his parents and talk to them about the level that he belongs to play at. And they don't want to hear that. And so they say, okay, well, if you don't believe in my son, we're going to go elsewhere. Only to find out that, in a year or two, he's playing at a Division III or junior college or a Division II level. He never made it to the Division I level. So, sometimes you got to bite your tongue, and sometimes you don't. But being honest, to me, and being sincere with your players, and understanding the trials and tribulations that parents go through at this level, and having some compassion for the parent in the way of making sure that you're not only coaching their kid, you're also coaching them as the years go by as well, and giving them good, solid advice. And if you do those things, I think you'll be successful.
I tell you, I think that last part was so important to hear. Coaching the parents, I think, is such a key piece of information. Really good stuff. Yeah, cool. I'm anxious to hear where you go with this one. What one change, if we gave you the magic wand, what one change do you think you could make to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
That's a really good question. I like to stick to, what my beliefs are. I think that the NCAA really created a monster when you have kids that are in the 8th grade that are able to verbalize to a school, Division I school, without even knowing what they're going to look like 4 or 5 years down the road. I think it threw a lot of players into a whirlwind. It comes a competition. There's a lot of anxiety that comes along with that, because the recruiting process started so early, and these here colleges are already recruiting 2024s or 2025s. So, if you're not recruited by the time you're a sophomore, you have a tougher chance to go and play at the Division I level. So I would love to see that that change. I'd love to see it go back to a rising senior rather than a rising junior. Be qualified to be recruited and assessed by a school, because I think that's one of the reasons why the colleges are having so much trouble right now holding on to their players too, because of the confusion that's being displayed at the lower level, and then it just transfers over into from high school to travel ball. And then listen, we have kids in our area that are going back and forth from one school to the other. We had one kid in our area. He's at 3 different high schools. Now he's a senior, and he hasn't played any baseball. So if there's anything that we can change, it would be the recruiting process starting much too early. And I'd like to see it go back to where it was. I can't see how you can evaluate a 2024 or 2025. So many variables, so many things can change by the time he gets to you as a college coach.
So I've talked about this publicly plenty of times. I actually have a little bit of a different take, but I think it achieves the same result. And let me run it by you and see if you agree or disagree. My high level thought is I'm less concerned and less mad about the early commitment than I am about the decommitment that we often see after the fact. And I don't think the NCAA is going to be able to necessarily slow down these verbal offers unless they put in a simple rule. Let's let kids sign. And so when a coach offers a player, let them sign a piece of paper. You sign the piece of paper. Now, just by implementing that, I think that slows everything down, because what I would do is I would basically create an incentive, or rather a decentive, where if the player decides to renege on his commitment, he has to go down a year, just like before with the transfers. Remember, before the NCAA just allowed free agency, as they have in the last couple of years. If you were going to transfer, you either had to sit a year or go down a year. And so if you sign a piece of paper, I don't care if you sign as an 8th grader, but if you sign and then you decide not to go to that school and honor your commitment, you have to either sit or go down a level. If a program offers and then pulls the money, that money is spoken for. You can only offer that money one time. So you can't offer little Johnny and then decide not to give him the money and end up giving it to little Mikey. That money is spoken for once and only once. And I think if we allowed an 8th grader or a 6th grader or a kindergartner to sign the line, but impose these guardrails, these penalties, if you will, I think coaches probably don't offer as much. I think they wait, and then at the last minute they say, "Hey, we're definitely sure you're our guy," and that's when they bring out the piece of paper. So it's really about eliminating the verbal offer and going with a written offer. That's sort of my concept. There's a lot of blanks to fill in there. We're much smarter people than me can probably fill in those details, but that's sort of my take. My take is I get less chafed about the early commitment than I do about that kid who then later decommits, or the program that then drops that kid that they committed 2.5 years ago. Both are really what really kind of bother me. So anyway, what do you think? Does that sort of, I think I jumbled my explanation a little bit, but does that make any sense to you?
I think it does, but again, it's you ask 10 more people their opinion, and they'll give you 10 different opinions.
That's true. It's 100%.
I just think that again, traditionally, that's the kind of person I am. Less is more. When you start to do things that make things complicated, then everything becomes more complicated, and people get confused. You're dealing with a lot of different people, and when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with their emotions, and when you're dealing with their children, you're dealing with their super emotions. And so the more simpler you can make it, the more simplified you can make it, to me is probably the best way. And I think by not throwing more people into the recruiting process, I think helps the college coaches assess the players better and allows them to determine what level these kids play at, and then go from there. And you're surprised how many kids verbal early but never make it to that school. They never make it there. So that's a problem. I'm driving, and I don't want to lose you.
Hey, Coach. I think we got our connection has gotten really poor. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I'm here.
It sounds like you're back. We missed about the last 30 seconds of what you were saying. You were going in and out. But I tell you what, that's probably a good place to bring the recording to an end. Again, if you're still listening, connect with Coach over on Twitter at Nick DeFendis, and you can find him and the website over at rcbclub.com. Coach, man, I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any sort of parting words for anybody who might still be with us?
Yeah, stay healthy. Keep working hard. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't do something. You put your mind to it, and you have determination. That's what I've been trying to do my whole life. So hopefully you guys listen to that type of advice, and everybody locally podcast. I'll get some feedback from you, and that would be that.
All right, Coach. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to our connection. It's gotten it deteriorated for the last minute, but hopefully people can connect with you. If you're still, Coach, if you're still there, hang on one second. I'm going to end the recording, but don't hang up.